Hello, and welcome to another episode of Speak, Film, and Enter, a podcast where we review and rank movies. I'm Nate.
And I'm Dylan.
And today we're going to be breaking down and spoiling all of Stranger Things Season 4, Part 1, because we do not have Part 2 yet to talk about. But Stranger Things is amazing. We all love it. So brand new season for the first time in like 3 years. So we thought it would be fun to dive in to the new season, talk about spoilers, talk about that ending, or that cliffhanger, I should say, because it's only the first part of season 4.
Yep.
But and just, you know, a place to share our full thoughts on all the 7 new episodes that we got to watch. And I think were all of them the 7 longest episodes of the show.
Maybe, or I mean, they got to be up there because I believe every single episode was like an hour 15, hour 20, hour and some change.
Most of them were between an hour 15 and like an hour 18. And then episode 3 was like an hour and 3 minutes. And episode 7 was like
a movie.
Was like a movie. It was like it was 100. It was 100 minutes.
Yeah.
It was like an hour 40, basically.
Yeah, so, no, I definitely when I watched it, of course I binged it because Stranger Things is one of the most bingeable shows, and it kind of almost, I feel like, not to say that it started like the whole trend of let's dump the whole show at once so people can just binge it and get out of it, but it's always been done that way, and I've always watched Stranger Things that way. So when I saw that this got released, it kind of took me by surprise. I didn't realize it was going to get released the day that it was, and I was actually homesick. So I was able to knock out the whole. I finished it all in like one day, basically. I watched 6 episodes, and then I saved the finale for like the next morning.
Had breakfast and I knew it was coming and was like counting the days.
Well, and it's been, like you said, what, 3 years? Since,
something like that. So this has been like highly anticipated. I was actually on vacation in Colorado, and we like in the afternoon we went on like a really long, like 4 or 5 hour hike. Yeah. And then got back and made dinner and then just like plopped down on the couch when none of us could move anymore and just threw Stranger Things on and let it just keep starting the next episode until I think we watched 3, and then it was like 10 p.m. and we had been, you know, we'd walked like a bunch of miles, like high elevation and stuff, and just thought like, okay, I'm ready to go to bed. But 3 episodes in the first day was good. It is funny though that like how bingeable this show is, because there are other Netflix shows, like original Netflix shows. You think like they kind of design them that way, more than anything else. And there have been some others that I've loved, like Haunting of Hill House, where I was able to control myself and I watched 1 episode of Hill House every day for 10 days.
Yeah, I think even with Midnight Mass, maybe I didn't binge the whole thing in like once. It was like, you know, 2 episodes here, 3 episodes here, 2, you know. I watched it 3 or 4. I kind of spaced it out. Whereas with this it's just like, nope, next episode.
It's they just make it like impossible to stop.
And they definitely still have that going for it. I guess where did you want to start? Because obviously there's a lot to go over. There's a lot of characters. The one thing that Stranger Things has not done, maybe not a good job, but something they don't do is they do not kill off their characters. So we've still got a lot of characters and different storylines and different locations. The group is now split up. Half of them are in Hawkins, but like, who is it? Elle and Mike and his older brother and Jane.
When it starts, Elle is living with the Byers family in California.
Yes. So we've got 2,
and then Mike goes to visit them. Yeah.
So there's the Hawkins kids, and there's the Hawkins high school dynamics, and there's this California kids, California high school dynamic. I'll be honest, the first episode or 2, it kind of was a little bit. I found it a little bit difficult to keep track of what was going on in the 2 schools. Like there was definitely one point where I was like, it was when Elle when Mike visits Elle, like he takes the plane. And it was just, there was a really weird moment where I was like it shows him getting off the plane and he's hanging out with Elle, and then it cuts to the older girl who's dating the guy long distance, and they're talking about like, well, is he gonna visit? And it got
like Nancy
there was a second where I was like, wait, but wasn't he just on the, aren't they all visiting each other now? And then I was like, oh no, he's still with Argyle. But like, how is Argyle with these other kids if he's not there? Like, I'll be honest, that threw me. I was not used to two separate high schools going on at once.
Well, it's the first time they've done it, and we really only had to deal with it for like 2 episodes.
Yeah, 2 or 3, yeah. And then they kind of
well, I mean, the groups are still split, but I don't think they go back into the high school after like episode 2 in California.
Yeah, which I was okay with.
Yeah.
And then we also get, again, this is spoilers, so sorry, we're gonna ruin this for you. But we also get the twist of Hopper being alive and this kind of Hopper Russian prison storyline. So it's kind of those 3 things kind of going on at once. I just felt like there was definitely a lot going on. I could see why the episodes, like having them be like over an hour, like it worked because I feel like they were all very dense and a lot of jumping around from here to here to here to here. How did you feel like kind of the storylines they went with and like the balance of telling the kid's story and Hopper's story and going in the past and all that?
Yeah, this felt a little bit like, I think it was like Game of Thrones season 2, when like after Ned gets killed and everything just sort of like explodes and everybody's in different places. And then you feel like there were these episodes that were like 58 minutes long where you visited like 10 different locations and like storylines, and you just get like 5 minutes of each. This isn't to that level, but it made me feel that way a couple of times because there were moments when anytime I felt like I was gaining momentum in one of the, I think there's like 3 kind of primary threads going. There's like Hawkins, California, and Alaska, Russia.
Yep.
Kind of. Although for a while it's Alaska and Russia are separate. They actually are separate for most of the time, really. So there's kind of 4 different threads going, although we know that they're going to converge eventually. But yeah, I did feel like at times it was frustrating when it was like, especially in Hawkins, which was easily my favorite part of the season. Like I could watch these kids Scooby-Doo some upside down shit like all day, every day for basically the rest of my life. Like it doesn't even matter at this point if it's like kind of the same thing. To me, it's just like more time watching these fun kids deal with this crazy shit.
Yep.
And kind of have like a slightly different twist on it every season. And like different pairings. I like when they're able to do that, when it's kind of like, oh, now this season we get like these 2 together.
Yeah.
Because we haven't had a lot of time with like just them yet, which like the first time they sort of did that on accident with like Dustin and Steve in season 2, which turned out to, I mean, they're still doing that.
Yeah, they're like, still a duo.
Maybe that's like the most popular part of the show, maybe. I think they did like a pretty good job with it overall, but I did feel like there were moments when every time one story got going, we just cut to the other side of the world.
Yeah.
And that, that was frustrating at times, but I think for the most part it worked. And I mean, I think they did confirm before the season came out that Hopper was alive, just because it had been like 3 years and people were just like, hey, you're in this, right? And finally he was just like, yes.
Yes, I
just think like it was that long that they just realized, I think it was stupid to just keep being like coy about it. Like season 6 of Game of Thrones with like Jon Snow or something, but that was only like a year apart, where this was 3 years.
Yeah.
No,
I think it definitely still is hitting all the beats that it has established as like a successful formula. I will say, so I went through and for each episode I just gave it a ranking just so I could kind of keep track of the highs and the lows. And episode 1 is tied for the highest rated of all the episodes. I really thought episode 1 was really good. Like I just felt like it had been so long, and I don't even remember why, but I remember being a tiny bit disappointed in season 3. And for some reason, I just, there was this little part of me that was like kind of a little hesitant, like, oh God, is it still going to be as great as it was? And like, it's been so long. And I just felt like that first episode did such a good job of just like, yep, nope. Like we got the high school stuff. They're not popular, but they found their own clique. You got, the kid who's playing basketball. You got the other D&D kids. You got like 11. And of course, there's new girls that are mean to her at her new school. Like, I feel like every season almost starts like kind of the same way, where like we follow them to school and we kind of see like the social problems they're going through. And then by the end of the episode, there's a reveal of the evil force that they're going to have to defeat. So I feel like this one, it followed that good tried and true formula. And I liked like the new characters it introduced. And I really like how at the end of season one, we get like, or of episode one, we get like a hardcore, like scary, like death to kind of set the tone of like what the force is. And it was like shockingly like, damn, like I was like, oh my God, that's like gruesome. And it really, I just felt like it set a great tone for the rest of the show of just kind of like, oh, here's the pieces, here's that Stranger Thing vibe that you've been missing. And like, we're still edgy enough to go like real dark on the dark spookiness. So I like that.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting.
Episode one.
Yeah. I liked it for the most part. I will say I did not like, basically like the stuff with Elle being bullied in school. Like it felt so over the top to me. And this is episodes 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Where like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying this has never happened, but it also just felt like the entire roller rink is gonna like shame her in front of it. Like, I don't know. It just, that felt like too much to me. And like the students doing it just like in front of the teacher.
Yep. I think that was episode 2.
That was in front of the teacher was episode 1, and then the roller rink was episode 2.
Yeah, because in front of the teacher is when she tries to use her powers on that girl and they don't work, which I felt like was
that was at the school, but it wasn't in front of the teacher.
Yeah, but it was at the school, and then like right after that is when the teacher walks up and is like, "What's going on?"
Yeah, I was talking about like when they make fun of her in class when she's doing her presentation.
Oh yeah. I mean, I felt like that was okay, but I felt like they kept it going too much in episode 2, where like then in episode 2 it's still going, and then I thought the roller rink thing was frankly just a little bit dumb. I think there was a better way that they could have publicly embarrassed her that wouldn't have been so over the top. Like
like the employees of the, I don't know, that just felt like too much to me, and it's a small gripe because we moved on and then we didn't go back to it, so it was fine. But I did find it interesting that they introduced, I mean, we can talk about the new characters now if you want to.
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah, so I found it interesting that they introduced all these new characters in the first episode, and then one of them died. I was not expecting that at all. And it was particularly interesting because they had 2 of the new characters in sort of a thread together with Eddie and the cheerleader girl. I cannot remember her name. Christina?
Yep.
Okay. It was interesting to me that they put them together because it was weird to watch because we don't know them and we know everybody else in the show.
Yeah.
And they weren't
following them to his place so she can buy some drugs or whatever. And you're kind of like, what's exactly going on here? Because I don't really know either of these characters that well.
Right. Well, we also knew that she had some weird stuff going on and she was having some visions. They definitely tricked me a little bit. I mean, anytime you see like a high school girl in the bathroom throwing up, like I just assumed she was pregnant.
Yeah. That or or like bulimia. She's having, one of those 2 things.
Right. But then we get these kind of like visions, and then she's got her boyfriend who's the captain of the basketball team. He just felt really one note to me as we continued. It just kind of felt like, I don't know. They do this thing where like kind of the bullies in their show are so aggressive about it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I always just feel like they're generally a little sneakier or like making sure adults aren't around. But like, I don't know. In this season and with a lot of the bullies in Stranger Things, they're just so aggressive and obvious about what they're doing. And just like nobody does anything about it ever.
Yeah,
and it's very strange.
They're very like 80s bullies. Like like this show is trying to capture the 80s, including the one note over the top, crazy aggressive bullies that maybe they did exist at some point. But I mean, every high school has bullies, but I also feel like most bullies kind of have a little bit of apathy at a certain point, like if you just leave them alone, then normally they just leave you alone. But like these bullies are like, oh no, like I'm gonna go out of my way to find him after class. And like it's just like it's so aggressive. It's just
like what they
oh
live for.
I know. Like,
yeah, and I don't want to talk about them too much, but they felt like a bit much to me.
Both the girl bully in the California school and the captain of the basketball team.
Yeah, they both felt like a bit much. That said, I really like Eddie.
I really like Eddie.
What's Jonathan's stoner friend's name?
Argyle.
Again? Argyle. He's from Booksmart, where he was very funny. I like Argyle quite a bit too. And I always like whatever season it is. I really enjoy the episodes when somebody learns about like the upside down or upside down related things for the first time.
Me too. Yeah.
Whether it's like Max learning about it in season 2 or like Steve learning about it in the last episode of season 1 or like Robin in season 3. I just always like those episodes, and I really enjoyed those scenes. I mean, and I really enjoyed the scene where they kind of explained it to Eddie, and Robin starts to, and she's like, "Been through this before." Like, she's like, "Well, they have many times, me once."
Yeah,
and like that made me laugh. Robin is just so delightful and fun to follow around. I just really enjoy her character, and I really liked that they put her and Nancy together this year. I thought that was really fun.
That was a cool pairing. Yeah, no, I liked a lot of the newer characters. I really like Eddie. I just think from the very beginning, like he's this unique kind of hard rock dude, but he's also a nerd. And they establish very, very quickly that he actually does kind of have like a heart of gold, and he's kind of just a big softy. I love the juxtaposing the basketball game montage with their super intense D&D montage, and how like, of course, like when they first bring in the new girl, he's a little bit like standoffish and he kind of gives her crap. But once they're in it, he's having just as much fun as they're having. And once they win, they all are hugging and smiling. It's just like, it was such a good way to instantly establish like who this Eddie character is, how he fits into like Hawkins and also like their world. And then to throw him in the middle of it and have everybody think that he's a killer was perfect, because it's a way to keep him involved, but also kind of like as a thing they have to hide. I don't know. I really liked like the way that he was played and the way he was written. I thought Eddie Munson was a great character. And then how do you like Dario Najarez showing up in Russia? Yeah, I knew you.
It's Jaqen Hagar, actually.
Oh, okay. Yes, Jaqen Hagar. Sorry.
Yes, but instantly I was like, I know who that is.
I knew you. Yeah, I was like, that voice. It's that voice and that face. It was like, oh wait, who is that guy? Oh yeah. And
definitely.
I thought he was good too. He's always good as like kind of a sneaky. He's up to something. He knows, how to get out of the situation. He was great casting, and even though I felt like sometimes that Hopper storyline was a little, I don't know, was a little ridiculous, or just like it kept kind of pulling me away from the storylines I was more interested in, which is the Hawkins stuff and the kids.
It kind of kills momentum a lot.
It does, but I did like when him and Hopper, like the way they work together, when they both get caught and they're basically both prisoners together. They had a cool, I just love, like, he kept giving them like the look and being like, you son of a bitch. Like, every time it happened, it just made me smile and just be like, oh, Hopper. Like, so I liked them as a duo. So I'd say those were Eddie Munson, and then what was that guy's name? The Russian helper guy.
I have no idea.
Played by Jaqen. Yeah. I just thought those are my two favorite new characters.
Yeah, I agree with that too. You want to get into favorite moments? Because I want to talk about this ending for like 10 minutes at least. So
yeah, I think we should. Yeah.
Yeah. So favorite things for me for the season. A big one is what they did with Max.
Yes.
I like what they did with her character a lot. And I like the overarching theme of PTSD that they have going in this season, whether it's relating to like 11 and kind of suppressing some memories, which is causing her to lose her powers and being afraid to use them, or like Max and Vecna, the great villain, by the way. I think this is one of their better ones. Probably, I think the best one since season 1.
I think so too, because it's an actual person entity with a personality. It's not just like a monster. It's not just mindless.
Right. It's not like the demodogs
or the demon dogs or whatever,
or that giant spider thing. Like, this thing can talk, which makes it more interesting. And I just loved what they did with Max, and then just noticing that like all of the kids who are dying and being attacked by Vecna have some type of trauma that they're going through. I don't know how they're gonna tie that in the last 2 episodes, but I just think it's really well done, and I liked giving Max kind of that issue and this sort of like ticking clock.
I loved
was just a great touch.
So that was all episode 4, and that was my tied for my highest ranking. I gave that episode a 4.5 out of 5 because it has all the stuff with Max. There's the stakes that immediately are like, oh, she's next. So then, like you said, there's this ticking clock. They have to figure out how to beat it. You have the 2 girls going off and talking to the original guy, and that's when you get the awesome little Petey McHugh. You remember little Petey, don't you? Like the thing when Robin just like makes it up out of her ass. I love that. And then you get a cool escape scene from Hop. That's when Hop escapes originally with the fight in the shed. And then you get that awesome ending with Max being in Vecna's grasp and having to break free, and the music and amazing use of Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush, which I heard is now like #1 on iTunes just because of Stranger Things. Like, yes, awesome. I mean, that was already an awesome song, but they found a great way to use it. When she's running away and she's trying to get back to the world and it's slow-mo, and like that is peak Stranger Things right there, and I just loved it. And then she makes it safe and they all hug, and it's just like, yes, like that one made me want to stand up and cheer. Like that was a great episode.
It's amazing how many times they've been able to do a scene very similar to that. And it just hits me I feel all of it every single time. And it's because the characters are so good, and the kids care about each other. I also really liked in this season because I think this is how it would go, where in other seasons, it's kind of been like, we don't know who knows. We're not allowed to talk about it. We don't really know if this is happening again. So let's try to confirm this before we like tell everybody and start a whole new thing. But this time, they're veterans at this upside down stuff. And they just like instantly, there's like, oh yeah, there's some weird shit going on. Let's get the crew together. Like they just know who to find, and they know to do it right away. And I like that because also, first off, it just allows us to get them together to solve this stuff quicker, which is like the meat of the show. And second, I just think it actually makes sense because they would just be like, okay, there's like 6 of us now or left who know this stuff. Let's not waste any time and just get to it right away. So I love the camaraderie and like the pairings of the crew and Hawkins. And then, of course, it feels like every show has to have like any show with violence has to have a long tracking shot with guns and like panicking characters now. And they did a really good job of that when the house in California gets attacked.
That was cool.
But what may have seemed like novel 6 to 8 years ago is now just kind of like, oh, that was cool. There are like 9 other shows that have done this already. Which is fine, but I did enjoy that scene. And then we also get Argyle too, kind of being the one who, like, I like the reactions when people learn about it. It's just fun to me. And I liked the scene with Jonathan where Jonathan's kind of explaining to him like all the crazy stuff he's got going on. And he's like, you still want to hang out, or like, thanks for coming or something. He's like, yeah, man, you're the only friend I have. And then just like keeps hitting golf balls or something. It was just like a nice sort of comedic moment. And yeah, I think also just the end of 6 on the lake, like leading into the beginning of 7, like holy shit, that was so good.
That was good too. And just the whole lake thing, how that's another portal, having to swim down into it. That whole, of course, Steve goes first, and then they all have to go, and like then they go through there. Like that was all like classic, like you said. Like once it gets going, and it's like, all right, the kids have to figure out what's happening to save the town. Like that always works, and it does make sense. Like you were saying, if our group of friends got together and solved murders, by the time we did it, 3 or 4
supernatural murders.
Yeah. And by the time we did it 3 or 4 times, it probably would take us less time to get set up. We'd be like, all right, we've done this before. Let's get in the swing of things, right?
Right.
And I felt that this time, like you were saying, where they were all pros. They're like, oh, we know what we have to do.
They're like, oh, I recognize this. Let's call the group. We got to investigate. And then, God, man, the bats.
Yeah, those bats, like creature
Those
things.
to me might be the scariest things they've ever made. Just the idea of being attacked by those things is like, ugh.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I the one thing I have marked for 6 about that ending is I felt like that was just a weird place to cut that episode, like to actually end it, because he gets through and then he's there by himself and then he's being attacked by those things and then it cuts to black, but we already know that the other people are swimming down to him, and then the
Right.
next episode just starts with them, of course, showing up, and then they all fight those things and then they all run away. And it just felt weird. Like, why didn't we cut it either like right when he jumps in the water or after they've all gone down and fought those things? And now they're like, oh crap, we're like stuck here. Boom. Like, it just felt like a weird kind of like weird place to cut it. But I liked that episode a lot. That also had the sick Lord of the Rings references.
Oh,
in that
yeah.
one where he's like, oh, we're like this and we have to go to Mordor. And then Steve's like, what's Mordor?
Yeah. Yeah, that was funny. And it also has Dustin's amazingly awful Watergate pun.
Yes, Dustin's he cannot help it with the dad jokes this season.
I know. He's really leaning into it, and he's starting to get more confident, which is kind of fun. He's like, when are you guys going to know that I'm right? Like, all the time.
Yeah. The one thing that brings down episode 6, which is also to me one of the weak spots of the entire show, is when they go to Susie's house. Just because it's a lot of trying to be funny with ridiculous kid stuff that just feels a little bit out of place and doesn't, like the stuff with her dad, and just it felt like like we spent just way too much time there. Like, I don't know, she could have just had a normal house and like,
yeah, she didn't need to live in like a religious boarding house.
Yeah, you're still asking her to hack into like a government computer. Like, the stakes are still high. You don't also need to like rescue her from her crazy, but whatever. I just felt like though, like that didn't make me laugh at all, and that dragged it down a bit. But yes, I love the ending of 6 with the water and everything, and then the way that just sets up everything into 7, which I also thought was a very strong finale. And I think unless there's something else that you wanted to touch on, I think we can get to the ending, because there's certainly a lot to talk to there.
Yeah, this was my brother finished this season before I did. We both got through 6 at the same time. And then he texted me like, I think it was like, I don't even remember, like Sunday night or something, and was like, have you finished 7 yet? And I said, no. And he said, okay. The end of that surprised me more than anything in Stranger Things ever has.
Wow.
And okay. I thought that was really interesting. So I think it was very and this is good because we haven't really talked about Elle very much, so we can kind of fold her into this.
Yeah.
It was interesting, and I didn't really like it that much at first because it felt like every season since season 1, her arc has just been to like remember how to use her powers or something. Although that was more season 2, and then in 3 she was just like hurt.
But like to our point earlier about how we said that, it seems like every show has like, or every episode of Stranger Things has like certain beats that it hits, right?
Yeah.
Certain parts that like, oh, it's this part. And it seems like every season of Stranger Things has a part where she remembers her powers and boom, and
yeah,
it happens and I still love it every time.
Yeah,
but like I knew that that's where this was going, or at least I felt like I did.
Right. Well, they did
took away from it a little.
Kind of what they did is they made her too powerful early on, and then they needed to like pull her back in like every season because otherwise they'd just solve the problem with her every time.
Yeah.
And so this one just kind of felt like a rehash of season 2 a little bit, where she's kind of off on her own, trying to remember how to use her powers. I thought it was interesting that they put the 2 doctors together.
Yep.
To try to help her do that. And kind of the sending her back to like replay the moments leading up to like before we met her. I thought that was cool. And then I thought it was really clever to have, what is this guy's name? Because he has like his sort of job name, and then he has his like other name. Peter Ballard is his name, like as an employee, and he's actually Henry Creel, Victor's son.
Yes.
So
and we find out he is number 1.
Yes. Well, we think. Yeah, Vecna as well. Yeah, we don't know if there's something above Vecna yet. I think that's kind of what I'm getting at. But he's Vecna for sure. And I thought it was very clever to sort of hide the villain for this season next to Brenner. Because Brenner's an established villain. He was like he's been the human villain.
Yes, the
like
mastermind
the entire time.
who wants to capture Elle and do experiments
And so in any scene that we see, any character who is on Elle's side simultaneously against Brenner, we're inherently going to trust.
Yes.
Because we know Brenner's evil. I thought it was clever hiding him in there. Although I must say, once he mentioned, like, I've met number one, I was like, okay, he's totally number one.
I got that thought. That thought occurred to me. And then for me, I put it together not super early, but I put it together like during episode 7. I think the real giveaway for me was when she is like, oh, we can escape. We can escape. And he's like, I can't. This thing, it weakens me and it tracks me. And when he said the word weakens, I was like, weakens him? I was like, oh. And then once she takes it out, I'm like, oh. Ruh-roh.
I kind of figured he was Victor Creel. Or not Victor Creel. He was
number one.
Vecna. Yeah.
Okay.
He was number one and he was Vecna. I kind of figured all of those things, but I did not see coming was him being Victor's son.
Yes.
And that's fascinating to me because that changes the whole dynamic of like the history of the show and everything that happened before season 1, because up until this point, we've been led to believe that all of the powers that people have come from Brenner's experiments and like the drug use and the children born of that.
Yep.
But he had these powers before he ever met Brenner.
Yeah, he was just born with them or he acquired them.
Right. Like that's the part we don't know now. So I find that fascinating because it seems like he was the one who sort of like put this idea in Brenner's head of like, oh, we could like recreate this.
Yep.
I mean, I'm hoping we learn in the next 2 episodes, and then season 5 will be the last season. So we should learn at some point how he came to have these powers.
Yeah.
But that was the most fascinating part to me. And then just the fact that like Elle sent him into the Upside Down, which I don't think is supposed to be the same opening from the beginning of season 1.
Okay.
Because we've seen season 1 where there's like a bunch of people around them and like they start running. And I think that must have been when Brenner was like, oh, do this again. Like,
yes,
that seems like what that was to me. But
no, I thought it was really cool. I thought the way they connected all that was after the fact, like it made sense and it gives us a good idea of like the history of Hawkins and more than just kind of this ambiguous, like, I don't know, there's just always strange things going on in Hawkins. Now we're starting to finally get to the bottom of it. Like, oh yeah, well there's just evil, creepy kid who then they did experiments on, and then this other super powerful kid blasted him into the
another
alternate dimension that exists underneath the town. So there's been an evil supernatural entity living in the Upside Down world this whole time. Like, I don't know. It's adding more layers to the mystery of Hawkins, and I like that we're getting more clear, definitive history of like, how did Elle get here? How did this factory get here? And like you said, even like Brenner, like a little more, some more angles on Brenner. Like maybe he isn't just truly this evil guy, and maybe he is just a misunderstood genius who actually does care about.
I think he's pretty evil.
I mean, he's pretty evil, but like, I don't know. But like, on some level, it does seem like he cares about the kids, like not maybe in like the best way, maybe for his own reasons, but like,
but I mean, he still like stole them from their parents.
It still seems like, I don't know, like at the end of 6, when Elle goes Super Saiyan or whatever, and then like he basically like extends his hand, like, do you want to like come back in and get your powers back? And she's like, yeah. So like, I don't know. I guess that my point is like, I don't think, because at first, like when she's working with Paul Reisner, right, he portrays it as, we're going to help you get your powers back. Why don't you come back and it'll be like a nice little 5-day weekend, and we'll sing
Yeah.
some songs and drink some hot chocolate, and we'll help you get your powers back. And then she shows up, and it's Brenner, and it's like, oh God, is she just like trapped again now? Like, was this whole thing just, now she's just gone, government property for the rest of her life? But instead, it does seem like they are going to release her again, or at least like they're not just going to keep her trapped down there forever. Like,
no, that's
I get
true.
the impression that on some level they actually kind of like realize that they need her to defeat this thing. Like,
well, that's exactly it. Is they're still using her for like selfish reasons, but at this moment, her needs align with theirs. So Brenner seems fine. I highly doubt he will either live through this thing, or I doubt that we will be given a good light to view him in as like our lasting image.
I think he's going to get a heart of gold. I think we're going to find out at the end of this thing, he's got like 4 kids with special needs, and he hates doing this job, but they told him, we're going to take your pension and your health benefits unless you do this job, and your kids are going to die. And we're going to find out that he's really like the best guy in the whole show besides Hopper.
I will bet you a lot of money that doesn't happen.
It's on. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was a really strong ending, one of the stronger endings of any of the seasons. Because I love what was revealed. It was cool getting backstory with Elle and revealing that she didn't actually kill all those kids. She just kind of helped the dude who did it get away with it. But then she, sent him to the upside down world. So good for her.
Yeah.
No, this has me super hyped to watch the last 2 episodes whenever they do release at the beginning of July, you said?
Yeah, July 1st, if people don't know that yet. And also, I'm disappointed too that it's only 2 episodes, but episode 8 will be 1 hour and 25 minutes, which is slightly shorter than episode 7. And episode 9 will be 2 hours and 30 minutes.
And that's just awesome.
Almost as long as Goodfellas.
Yeah, that should be a group event. Maybe we'll get together and watch that one together or something. We'll have to. Let's see. I'm just trying to look at any other notes that I had. I really like Eddie. I have one in all caps that just says Game of Thrones because of what's his face showing up.
Yeah.
The pace of the editing, at least in episode 3, I thought was really fast. Like there was a stretch in this show where I felt like the editing was even like breakneck speed, like faster than it usually is. Maybe that was just episode 3, but I actually made a note of it where it's like, oh my God, like let's slow things down a tiny bit, guys. I want to try to enjoy this here. Lots of convenient explanation. I don't know. I mean, so basically episode by episode 1, I gave a 4.5 out of 5. Episode 2 and 3, I gave 3.5. Episode 4 was a 4.5 out of 5, damn near a 5-star. I might even go back and just give that a 5-star because, like I said, it's got so much going for it. Yeah. Episode 5, I gave a 2.5. That was by far my least favorite episode.
What happens in that one?
That's the one where they put together like the puzzle piece of like the drawings that she's like drawing the things, and then they put together the pieces, and it's a house. And it's house.
Yeah, and somebody says like house. We really need Will here.
Yeah, and then that's also the one where Jane and what's his face survived the plane crash, which like I don't know, surviving plane crashes is always like okay. And then that's also where we get introduced to the Nina thing, which I liked it because it allowed us to go back in time, but just when it was introduced and when it was like, here's how you're going to regain your powers, you're going to go into this pod. You mean all these things hooked up to you? Like
you mean Joyce?
Yeah, Joyce. What'd I say, Jane?
Yeah, that's Elle's like given name from her mom.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. Yeah. Joyce, I mean Winona Ryder.
Yes,
Winona Ryder and the funny bald guy,
Murray.
Murray. Yeah, that's like when they have the plane crash thing. I don't know. I just felt like, and then like episode 5 is also when Argyle kind of gets exposed to that dead body because the dude dies in the back seat.
Oh,
he has his like big long freak out, which is funny, but in my opinion, also just kind of went on a little bit too long. And I was like, okay, like we get it, but I don't know. That was the weak episode of the season for me. But then episode 6 I gave a 3.5, and then episode 7 I gave a 4. So I think really strong beginning, really great middle point, and a really good end. I mean that's pretty good for a 7-episode show.
Yeah. You want to get into our scores for the season as a whole, or the
I think
part
we should,
one
yeah.
of the season as a whole? All right. We will be right back.
All right.
Well, since you were already sharing what your ratings for each episode was, you want to just go? You want to go first?
Yes. So I did a little math and I created an average. That's where I added up all of the individual scores and then divided them by 7. And it came out to 3.6. So as a whole, I'm going to give this a strong 3.5. All the good normal what was that? Basically the things you would come to expect from Stranger Things that makes it good, like why you're tuning in. That's all still there. The aesthetic is strong as always. The music is great. The kids, the way they talk to each other, their chemistry, it's all very natural. It's just they got a good thing going. A few weak points with just some of the storylines, like we mentioned, maybe we're just a little clumsy. Some of the Hopper stuff and some of the clues that they find. Some things are pretty convenient, but overall, I really thought it was a strong season, and I can't wait for the last 2 episodes of this season. And then, I'm right back on the train. Like I said, after season 3, I can't even remember why, but I was just a little disappointed, and I was a little bit like, are they going to be able to keep this up? Are they going to be able to keep the magic that was Stranger Things going? And I think that this season proved so far that they can. And so I really liked it. If you're a Stranger Things fan, you should 100% check it out. And the season 4 part 1, I'm giving a 3.5 out of 5.
I am going to go slightly higher than you and give this 4 stars. I think I pretty much agreed with everything you said, but for me, the highs of this season were so high. And just because it's characters that I've known and loved for years, there's just a feeling I get with this show that I don't get with very many other ones. Even if I think like the quality of this was a little more inconsistent than we've seen from a season of Stranger Things, it's just when I hit those great moments, it's like one of my favorite shows of all time. And like, I really liked, even though I found it like, I kind of called most of the big twist, I just loved the execution of it. The performances were great. And all the stuff in Hawkins was, I loved. Like, Eddie's a cool new character. Just once they get the group together and the dynamics they've got going, I think that was really fun. What they have going with Max is really good. And just the theme of PTSD, I think, is great to have. Like, these kids have grown up and seen some fucked up stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it's,
and I liked what they did with Lucas too. How they kind of have him, branching off. He hits the big game-winning shot, which, because Lucas, you're cheering for him, but then that's immediately juxtaposed with like, yeah, but the rest of the gang wasn't there because the rest of the gang is still playing D&D. And that's a very growing up through high school, friend groups start to separate. Like, all that just felt very natural. And then his kind of dilemma of like, who do I help? Where's my real alliance? Like, I felt like they kept that going just long enough where it made sense. And then he made the right decision, and then he's back with the good guys. They didn't drag it out too long, and they also didn't make it too easy.
He has that like 1.5 episode stretch or something where he's kind of trying to thread that needle and like have it both ways. And then he realizes it's just not possible. And then thankfully goes back to his old friends. Yeah. But I really liked it. I agree with you though. I mean, we're very close on this. Like, there are some weak points here, but the highs for me are just so good that I love this show.
Yeah, me too. It is officially back, and now I'm counting down the days until we can get those last 2 episodes. And you know what? Yeah, we should just get together and just watch those last 2 episodes. Try to get Adam and whoever else wants to come over.
Yeah, get Adam all caught up.
That'd be a fun group event. Yes, Adam was not able to join us because he's going back through the whole thing, him and his girlfriend. So I'm sure they'll get there soon enough. As we mentioned, this show is extremely bingeable. So
he's got a month, and they're like through season 2. So I would think
they'll get there.
They'll get there for sure. I don't know how you could stop.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly.
Be done by like Thursday.
All right. Was there anything else that you wanted to say about season 4, part 1 of Stranger Things?
I think that was it.
All right. Well, is it your turn to put a wrap on the show?
It is.
All right. Take it away.
You're just jealous because I have another older male friend.